All right, ladies and gentlemen, now that we have all 12 of the Brave Arsenal weapons in the game, it is time that we go ahead and rank all of them from worst to first. Although, to credit to all of these weapons, none of them are bad per se, but not all weapons are created equal, and some of these are definitely better than the others. So if I hurt your feelings by having your favorite weapon at number 12 or 11, it's still good. It ain't that deep, but there's better stuff. So let's get started with number 12. Coming in at number 12, we have the Elsie's Rifle, okay? Look, this list is entirely based on PvE performance, and I'm pretty sure most people are not going to be using a pulse rifle in PvE like that, even if it has some really nasty perks. I feel like the only pulse rifle people are going to use seriously inside of PvE is the Graviton Lance. Elsie's Rifle definitely has a good perk pool and some decent little combo of perks with things like Repulsor Brace or We Run Rounds in column 3, and Frenzy is going to be your main perk inside of column 4. It is a high impact frame pulse rifle, but it's still a pulse rifle in PvE, and this is still a weapon that I have not attuned even once so far on the back burner. No hate to anybody who likes this weapon, but for me, I like every other weapon more. So coming in at number 11, pretty sure a lot of people saw this one coming, we have, what is this, the 4th iteration of the Hung Jury. Come on, dude. When all of us saw that this scout rifle was making another return in the first Into the Light live stream, we were all like, bruh, how many Hung Juries do we have to get? Now, to be fair to this version of the Hung Jury, it's cracked. Gnarly perk pool, bro. We're talking kinetic tremor, shoot salute, rapid hit, and rewind rounds, all in column 3. And then in column 4, you do have things like Firefly, explosive payload, and for what it's worth, one for all in column 4. Hung Jury is good. It's good. Has a lot of great perks, but come on, dude. Are you really going to be using a legendary kinetic scout rifle like that often inside of PvE? I don't think you are. And if you are, you have 3 other versions of the Hung Jury to pick from. So this one's not really making it that far into the competition. No shade to the Hung Jury, but come on, dude. All right, now coming in at number 10, I feel like I'm gonna get a little bit of hate for this one, but it kind of follows the same logic as number 12. We're talking about the Blast Furnace. It is also a pulse rifle, an aggressive burst, but the thing to note is that this is going to be a kinetic pulse rifle and not a void one like the Elsie's Rifle. And as we know, kinetic primaries, at least currently, aren't the most ideal primary weapons. If you are going to use a primary, you're going to want to use one that's in the energy slot. Now, that being said, the Blast Furnace has some really good perks. Shoot Salute, Kinetic Tremors, Head Seeker, and even Keep Away are all in the 3rd column. And you got things like Firefly, One for All, Frenzy, Rampage, Rapid Hit, and even Desperate Measures in the 4th column. Look, man, Blast Furnace, it's a cracked out pulse, but it's a kinetic pulse rifle inside of PvE. I'll tell you right now, it's definitely better than the Smite Moraine, which beforehand I had as the best kinetic pulse rifle. Blast Furnace is definitely the best kinetic pulse rifle, but it's still a pulse rifle. I don't want to sound like I'm shitting on the Blast Furnace. I'm just keeping it real because I'm not going out of my way to use kinetic pulse rifles no matter how cracked its perk pool is. It's a good weapon, but there's better PvE options out there, especially inside of the Brave Arsenal, so let's move on. Coming in at number 9, we have the Succession, okay? Now, the Succession has always been a great sniper at what it's supposed to do. Hard-hitting, aggressive frame. You don't have to reload it thanks to things like Reconstruction, and you can snipe some higher health enemy majors from a distance with this sniper rifle. Why is it so low? Well, first of all, they didn't really change too much on this weapon's perk pool. So if you already have a good one from Deepstone Crypt with Reconstruction, Recombination, or Vorpal, you have almost no reason to go out there and hunt the Brave Arsenal version of it, unless, of course, you want that beautiful, shiny, I understand that, but the reason why it's a little bit higher up here is because it does have the interesting role, Discord and Redirection. You can basically use this combo on this sniper rifle to have infinite ammo. As weapon kills while Discord is active, fully refill the magazine of primary weapons and refund 1 ammo for special weapons. So if you get a fully loaded redirection shot going, then you're going to be able to recycle, reuse that bullet over and over again if you are using it. Maybe snipe off higher health enemy majors from a distance. It's a unique role, worth mentioning. You can get infinite ammo with it, but are you really going to be using a sniper rifle to add clear like that? I don't think you are, homie. Either way though, Succession's still good, but it's been in the game since Deepstone Crypt. so I have it at number 9. Now, coming in at number 8, I have the only SMG out of the Brave Arsenal, that being the infamous Recluse. Now, unfortunately, the Recluse really did have its main bread and butter perk completely gutted in Master of Arms. It's basically now just a worse version of Frenzy. Its body shot damage isn't like how it used to be either. It's only a 15% damage buff, and it's just a damage buff. You don't get any handling or reload speed along with the 15% damage buff like you do with Frenzy, so that is something worth mentioning. Its perk pool's really nice, man. You got Subsistence, Inlined Action, Repulsor Brace, Feeding Frenzy in the 3rd column. Then you have things like Frenzy, maybe you want to give Desperate Measures a try. Master of Arms is here. Surrounded as well. It's all in the 4th column. My favorite role for the Recluse is definitely Repulsor Brace and Frenzy, mainly for a Void Hunter. But part of the reason why I do have the Recluse in the lower half of the ranking is the fact that SMGs in the current sandbox, especially 900s, when you start going into any content in which you are capped under power, you're gonna feel this thing hitting like a wet napkin, even with Frenzy proc. It just takes a lot longer to get rid of some of these ads when a hand cannon will do its job much better, much faster, with great efficiency. I love the Recluse. I love myself some SMGs, but right now, I would really like SMGs just to get some nice little damage buff inside of PvE, because there's just almost no reason to go with an SMG over a hand cannon unless you're using it for some sort of mechanic based part of an encounter, maybe shooting the symbols in Caretaker, for example. That being said, the Recluse has all the potential in the world to rise to prominence as soon as the SMGs get some sort of little damage buff, so it comes in at number 8. Now, coming in at number 7, I have our first hand cannon here. I have the Midnight Goo. So if you don't have a Fate Bringer, you got to be hunting this weapon like nobody's business, because this is a absolute demon of a hand cannon. Now, it is a kinetic hand cannon, and what I said about the blast furnace still applies here. That's part of the reason why I have the Midnight Coup in the lower half of the list. Granted, it is towards the top of the lower half because it is a hand cannon, and hand cannons are in such a great spot. It's a 140 RPM. Everybody loves 140s. It has a nasty perk pool. It has things like Firefly, Shoot to Loot, and Explosive Payload in its 3rd column. And then it has things like Rampage, Kinetic Tremors, One for All, and Frenzy in its 4th column as well. One thing to note is that Kinetic Tremors takes 6 shots to proc on a hand cannon. That includes having explosive payload on it as well. It does not have any special synergy like we hoped it did, and 6 shots to proc KT on a hand cannon is kind of counterintuitive, because you would want that to proc much quicker, because against enemies in which hand cannons can't just outright one-shot them with a crit, you're almost better off using your special weapon against them. It can definitely be a little bit annoying trying to proc KT on this weapon because hand cannons are so strong by default now. So I would honestly say that explosive payload and One for All is probably going to be one of the better roles to go for. You just get such a big bump in your damage. Of course, Frenzy is always a great perk to help with your reload speed, and Firefly can be pretty nutty as well. And it does have the Fatebringer roll with explosive payload and Frenzy if you want to rock with that as well. It's just that, like I said about the blast furnace, kinetic primaries aren't in the best of spots. You're really going to want to use your kinetic slot on a special weapon, as energy primaries are in such a great sweet spot. They have so much synergy with builds, and kinetic specials in general are just really good. Midnight Coup's a beast, don't get me wrong, but it is a kinetic primary at the end of the day. Do with that information as you may. And now we're gonna move into the top 6 of our list here. Coming in at number 6, we have the OG paddle itself, the Fallen Guillotine. The first Vortex frame sword in Destiny 2 is making a triumphant return yet again. The main appeal to this bad boy is the 2 things. First is that it is another Vortex frame with Eager Edge, so if you were somebody who wasn't able to farm up a really good slammer, this can easily substitute for it, as Eager Edge on Vortex frames will improve the distance of your skate if you're really trying to fly and zoom. And yes, we all know that all of the Brave Arsenal weapons you will be able to enhance in the final shape. The other thing that people were drawn to by this weapon is the fact that it can roll a double damage roll. It can roll something like Frenzy in the 1st column and then Surrounded in the 4th column. However, why is it only at 6 if it has a double damage roll? That's because even with this double damage roll, it still gets beaten out by Bequest, bro. Are you serious? an enhanced surrounded bequest is still going to beat a frenzy surrounded fallen guillotine due to the fact that vortex frame swords aren't the best for damage, while bequest is the perfect frame for a sword to use during DPS. That being an adaptive frame, and its impact is 78. It's ridiculous, dude. Impact on a sword is the most important stat. So while the fallen guillotine can still be pretty gnarly, pretty fun to play around with that double damage roll, at the end of the day, it's still not beating bequest, which is just, come on, dude, really? Now we're going to talk about number 5. We have our other hand cannon here, one that we recently just made a video on, that being, of course, none other than the Luna's Howell. Yes, the 140 RPM hand cannon that fires with a 180 recoil pattern. Can be a little goofy and a little wonky. If you're not a fan of that, just a little heads up for you. I'll be real here, man. There's 3 decent perks in the third column. You have inline action, subsistence, and heal clip. Dude, heal clip's gonna be massive on this hand cannon. Heal clip will give you tier 2 cure to yourself and cure ×1 to your allies after you get a kill and you reload the weapon within 5 seconds of it. And that cure ×1 to your allies is within a 15-meter radius, which is pretty forgiving. Each tier of cure is worth 50 HP, meaning cure ×2 is 100 HP, and cure ×1 is 50. This can be really, really useful, especially if you're on a solar build. You have Ember of Benevolence proc. Heal clip will proc Ember of Benevolence, which will help you get your abilities back quicker on top of keeping you alive. Very, very useful perk, especially on this hand cannon. And then inline action will just help you reload a little bit quicker. And subsistence can be pretty gnarly if you combine it with Incandescent from the 4th column. Incandescent is also going to be really gnarly with heal clip, as that is the solar subclass in a weapon. Incandescent will spread scorch. If you have something like Ember of Singeing, that'll really help get your class ability back quicker. Heal clip, incandescent, man, gnarly roll. And of course, yes, Luna's Howl still does have the Magnificent Howl perk, which is a 50% damage bonus. And because this is an energy primary weapon, it has a little bit more stock and value than something like the Midnight Coup. Part of the reason why I put it higher than the Midnight Coup is solely for the fact that it is a solar hand cannon. Solar is very, very strong right now. Look at Ember of Empyrean and keeping up your resto forever, as long as you got enemies to rock with. So Luna's Howl comes in at our number 5 spot. All right, fellas, so now we're moving into some of the big time heavy hitters, and coming in at number 4, we have the second version of the most infamous legendary weapon of recent memory. We're talking about building a gun, Forbearance. Why is Forbearance so high and Succession is so low? It's simple. All of these weapons have the same origin trait, Indomitability. On a light subclass, that's 5% grenade ability energy. Then on a dark subclass, it's 5% melee ability energy. In the third column, you know what this weapon has that the old Forbearance doesn't have? Demolitionist, which is going to be 10% or so of your grenade ability energy, as long as you're not using something like a solar grenade. You combine Demolitionist with Indomitability, that is 15%. You combine that with Chain Reaction in the 4th column. You shoot 1 bullet of Forbearance in a room or a horde of trash abs. That grenade, as long as it's not a solar grenade, is going to come back borderline instantly. It is that good, that much of a juicer, and helping you print out grenades. I'm serious. The whole reason why Forbearance is up here, on top of it being Forbearance, everybody knows how just insanely good Forbearance is the fact that it now has Demolitionist on it, on top of a pseudo Demolitionist origin trait. It's just kind of insane and a little bit nutty, and I know some people are going to mention this down in the comments below, but yeah, you could go Demolitionist, Wellspring, on top of the Indomitability origin trait for a weapon that just helps you print out energy for all of your abilities, especially your grenade. This version of Forbearance, I would highly recommend getting a demo chain, even if you have a crafted one. I have a crafted one. I had to get a demo chain one. It's just that good, and they both can serve a different purpose, even though they are the exact same weapon. Forbearance can't beat the king. However, fellas, we're in the top 3 now. We're going to move from one grenade launcher to the next, as we're talking about the infamous Mountaintop. They say the hardest part about climbing to the top of the mountain is not falling off of it. Let me tell you, the Mountaintop has climbed the mountain twice, and it truly never fell off of it. This version of the Mountaintop, especially just nowadays, is awesome. You can use it to just send yourself flying in the sky. Its micro missile perk is now just a frame, and the frame itself does relatively high damage. Like, we're talking Wilderfly levels of damage. And if you have hard launch and implosion rounds, this thing's doing even more damage just because this frame's a little bit weird. You want to lower the blast radius on this GL, mainly on all GLs, but especially on the Mountaintop, as low as possible. That's why something like hard launch in column 1 and implosion rounds in column 2 are going to be what you want to get the most on this weapon. Just a little heads up there. Now, on top of some of the other perks that this weapon can roll with, man, dude, it's loaded. Column 3, you can run Demolitionist, Lit from Gold, auto-loading holster, overflow, and you can even talk me into Ambitious Assassin. But there's so many good picks in column 3, and then column 4, look, man, you have Vorpal, Frenzy, Recombination. Either of those 3 perks, you're going to be cooking with. Recombination can be really good to get that big burst shot off at the start of the damage phase. And then Vorpal will be really useful just for some consistent swap rotation, especially to proc DNS. If your exotic slot is taken up by something different, maybe something in the energy slot, who knows? The only thing that Mountaintop really has to compete with, at least in terms of a weapon you're going to use in a rotation, is Anagi's Burden, which it's not going to out damage that, but it is still going to do really good damage against anything. Majors, bosses, elites, champions. Recombination Mountaintop is going to be a very good tool, on top of giving you the ability to send yourself into the sky whenever you want to. This is one of the weapons people were looking forward to returning the most, and it's for good reason. The Mountaintop is a beast. All right, guys, we're moving into the last bit here. We got our number 2 slot, and we have the first LMG that Destiny 2 ever introduced. We are talking about the Shark LMG, the Hammerhead, fixed odds, biggest competition in ever. And let me tell you, you know an LMG is good if I'm taking it over something like fixed odds, which is my GOAT. Hammerhead has so much going for it here. I know people love their commemoration. I always loved my fixed odds more than commemoration, but that's just me. But let me tell you, dude, Hammerhead, it's replacing your commemoration. I know commemoration has reconstruction, who cares? Hammerhead has literally everything else. Rampage in the 3rd column. Yeah, Rampage in the 3rd column. Feeding Frenzy, 4th times, Envious, and Rewind Rounds, which I'm pretty sure most people are going to look at as the main perk in the 3rd column. That in Rampage, because Rampage is generally not in the 3rd column. And then in the 4th column, I mean, dude, Surrounded. Onslaught! I love juicing up that rate of fire. Killing Tally is here too. Yeah, target lock, but this thing is an absolute monster. You want an LMG that shoots like a retrofit but has the same damage profile as a 450? You got Hammerhead with Onslaught. Oh wait, you want to have that really fast rate of fire on that 450 RPM LMG and a damage perk? You're getting a little greedy, but I got you with Rampage in the 3rd column. Yeah, Rampage's Onslaught is an actual perk combo you can use on this weapon. It's insane. Rewind Rounds, Onslaught, awesome roll. Rewind Rounds, Killing Tally, awesome roll. Rampage, Killing Tally, double damage roll. So much juice. This thing's cracked out. I love the Hammerhead. It's insane. It's nutty. Who needs commemoration? It's in the trash can now. Hammerhead supremacy agenda is being pushed. We all know what number 1 is now, fellas. From meme to meta, we have the Edge Transit, okay? But Kree, the Cataphract exists. Yeah, I feel you on that, but a lot of PvP people, PvE people, they're not going to be spending hours, weekends on weekends, suffering in trials for a God Roll Cataphract when Edge Transit is right here for the taking. It exists. If you don't have Cataphract, this is one of the most anticipated weapons to go for. Yeah, I know Bungie said they're going to be looking into tweaking the Envious swap to Cascade with a big mag and stuff like that. I don't care, dude. Even just an Envious BNS roll for this thing is still going to be an absolute dream, an absolute beaut. And even still, dude, the ability to have Cascade Point and Envious Assassin both on the same weapon and having the ability just to pick between the two, dude, that's really freaking awesome. For the 4th column, bait and switch. I know people like Explosive Light. For GLs, Explosive Light makes a bit more sense than on a rocket launchers, because rocket launchers, you're generally rocking with Galley and Wolfpack rounds, and Explosive Light doesn't buff the Wolfpack rounds. At least on a GL, you're not losing as much damage versus a bait and switch GL if you have Explosive Light like you are on a rocket launcher. So I can see bait and switch or Explosive Light, one of those 2 perks in the 4th column. Combine that with Envious Assassin, auto-loading holster, or Cascade Point. You have yourself an absolute demon. GLs are in such a great spot right now, and I still recommend everybody go get themselves a God Roll Edge Transit, especially if you don't have a Cataphract on standby. Absolute giga chat of a weapon, and you can't miss out on that. Of course, this is an opinion-based list, so I know there's going to be people shouting, how can I put blank weapon over blank weapon? But it ain't that deep. Let me know your ranking for the 12 Brave Arsenal weapons. What's your favorite? What's your least favorite? And thank you so much for watching the video. Remember, if you want to get your games to DLC for a cheaper price, you hit up Instant Gaming, the top link in the description. You guys be safe, take care, consider subscribing, and we'll see your beautiful faces in the next one. Adios!